Welcome to my 3 hours with Bishop Asante Marfo-Ahenkora.
Hello once again and welcome to my 3 hours. For today, I want to share some of my childhood negative things. When I say negative, when you are a child, you can do things without thinking about the consequences. And that's why children ought to be guided and protected. Otherwise, they could harm themselves. And I'll give 1 or 2 or 3 instances of things I did. And I did them out of ignorance. Number 1, we used to have friends in our neighborhood. I was raised in the barracks with, when I say barracks boys. And those days, we were limited in the games we could play. If we were lucky to get a ball, football, and it was rare those days. We used to have this rubber, plastic ball, hard, that we played. That one could take some time. The rest were nothing. The normal football we couldn't get because there was no money to get them. And then there was what we call chaskele. We used tins. We get a stick and then we hit the tin and it goes, and then you try to throw it back into a bucket. For those my age group, probably they understand. And then of course we used to, we cut. We made our ties from chalewote, so that we could put bars, maybe pen, the ends, and then we'll put a stick on top and then we'll drive it. So the boys will come around and we needed to have fun. So these were normal things that we used to. One of it was, when we could get a bicycle, So I'm going to tell you about some of my escapades, because as boys, we wanted to be out. We wanted to enjoy, ourselves. But at home, our parents were very limiting. So any least opportunity, you want to go out when they are not around. So incident number 1. We had a good friend called Noah. He's actually a Muslim. He was called Nuhu. So he will come with his ball. And once we see the ball, we get crazy. So you come and hide somewhere and call us. Maybe you whistle. And then we know that this one, Nuhu, is around. And he also wanted some people to play with. And he's still alive and we're still in touch. He went abroad. He was a policeman, went abroad, and so we still have conversations. And sometimes when he calls me, he reminds me some of the things my grandmother would say. Hey, no, and so these things were happening. And so he still reminds me about those days. And one time, he brought a ball and my grandmother would not allow us to play. So you know what we did? We climbed, there was a roof, a shed that had a roof, what do we call it? Roofing sheets were on top. We said, Grandma cannot climb. And so the boys, we climbed that to go to play on top of the roof. And we were kicking the ball. Then all of a sudden, I kicked. And then we don't wear boots. I mean, these days, that 2 days that they say boot, and everything was foot, your bare foot. And then it went shill in front of the iron sheet. I had a big cut on my toe. Hey! It wasn't easy. Even climbing down from where I was at the top to come down. Then I started, Then who are you going to go to? Are you going to go to the grandmother who has warned you and you have run away? Or who? And so I cried and cried and cried. Eventually, I went to the room. She said, I won't mind you. I won't mind you. But when she saw me, the pain I was going through, she called my grandfather, hey, come and take him before he dies on us, because I was bleeding and it was so painful. So he came. I'm saying this to show the things we do to our parents and the love they show to us and how we learn from some of those experiences. So eventually I was rushed to the hospital, and then they had to apply some very painful medicines before I got relief. Then I learned lesson, because that day I learned lesson in foolishness, that you can't be very, very foolish. They will say certain things to you, you think you are smarter, you end up messing your life. I'll give you another story. That one too, my friend came. I wish you would listen to this, because he knows every one of this in detail. Then this one, he brought a bicycle, and we loved riding bicycles. If you have ever been in Muslim communities, they like bicycles. And I was born in Boko, and so I've stayed among. So my friends are all like the people in Zamabala. So you see me like this. I'm a local person, so I know how they do their thing. So he brought a bicycle, and then we were going for a bicycle. We were very, very rowdy. And then I said, see, as for the bicycle, when you're on top of a hill and you are descending, that's when you enjoy the bicycle. So we went high, and then we went to where you get the slope. And then, but this bicycle he brought, I didn't know that this bicycle had braking problems, and it will go and then, hey. So first person, they had their rides, another had, it was my turn. And me, I was very, you see me like, I think I'm still a very boisterous person. I'm fearless. So I changed the thing and then just allowed the free to be free. And it rolled from there. Just somewhere in the middle, getting to the base, I don't know what went wrong. Something seized in the thing. And then I didn't see, I was flying in the sky. Then I brutally landed on the floor, rolling. They came. No one was interested in the bicycle, not me. And then my friends had to, carry me home. You see the trouble we give because of our nature. I'll tell you another story. My grandfather trained us. I've told you I'm a barracks boy, so he trained us how to use the gun. And once we were trained, normally he was around when we went to the training. So, but there are times when he's not out, and then we'll pick the gun, and then we also try and shoot it. As I look back, I thank God that rifle was not one of the deadly ones. It was one time I just took the gun and stood where there was a big tie. I think this caterpillar tie. It was in a distance, and as a child, I thought, look, I should shoot into that tie, and that would be an achievement. So I took the gun, aimed at the tie, and I let out. And then the gun, the pellets, it hit it, and came straight back at me. If I'm here today, foolishness in the because some people may be going through things that they may be risking their lives doing them. I know that it took the grace of God. It hit me on the thigh. And it didn't do too much damage because probably the distance was a bit long. But as I have grown, I've come to realize that, it could have killed me. I'm saying these things to show that sometimes the nature, the temperament we are born with, we can be boisterous, we can be full of adventure, whatever. As I sit here, I know that the grace of God has tempered me a lot, but I wasn't scared. Let me put it down. I wasn't scared about anything. I'll tell you more. My grandfather had a car, the Hachu, and normally I would clean the car and get it ready. He was an army officer at the time. He was an army officer, and get it ready for either work or church or anything. So we were the ones who cleaned in the morning. One day after cleaning, I just said, I know how this car, I should be able to drive this car. So before they were aware, I started the engine. And there is a runabout in front of the house. So I said, let me go round. So I just stepped on the clutch, just accelerator. That was my first time I moved. Then I moved it and went round. And when I reached a certain point, I realized the car was not moving, so it stopped. Then I realized that the house people were shouting, hey, who is moving the car? Who is moving the car? Then I said, let me reverse it back to where, if you don't know how to drive, the last thing you do is reversing. And foolishly, I put it in reverse, stepped on the clutch and accelerator, and I was moving it back. It was heading straight to the house. Thankfully, there was a gutter. So when it hit it, it stopped. And then everybody was on me. Hey, what is happening here? How dare you? What? My old man came around, looked at me. He didn't say anything. He just said, if you are going to drive, why do you want to start with reverse? And I'm saying some of these things because when everybody was condemning, he didn't condemn me. And he saw a difference. He thought that this is boy, there's something in him that he would achieve. And instead of just condemning me outrightly, he rather told me, no, you rather need to learn how to do it before you do it. So in my mistakes, in my wrongdoings, he used it rather to tell me the right way to go. In other words, he was not the way the family was condemned. He wanted, learn how to do things the right way. Don't do them, just on the spare, but do it the right way. So, he was my cheerleader. And so, you have a situation where others see it as a mistake, as a condemnation, as a blah, but he saw some of my boisterous nature maybe as positive, and that I would be somebody who would be able to do things, out of the ordinary. So I say this to say that yes, we all, in our childhood, I could go on and on and on. I can't pretend like I didn't do a lot of wrong and bad things. They were not necessarily immoral things, but they were things that were against what we were being taught to do. But, like we all, as we grow, we want to venture into something. And as you hear me, maybe you are led to do certain things. But take the advice. There is a time and season for everything. But don't let them kill your spirits. That, you have this drive, you are making mistakes, but so don't do it. But for me, I learned that you need to channel it right and do it at the right time. And so I think that I've grown with some of it, because when I want to do any project, anything, I'm a strong-willed, I'm prepared to take risks. But I've also learned to be measured, because whatever I do has implications for my life and for others, so that I don't live a reckless life thinking that, you can go and play football on the roof and get away, or you can ride any bicycle anyhow with speed and not pay a price, and that kind of thing, and take a car and drive it, and you think that once you know 1, 2, you are there. So for me, there are lessons that I've picked from that helps me to know that don't kill what you have in your heart, but then be measured and do it at the right time. And so that is the story of my life. I've learned some lessons, and I believe by sharing it, you know that you are not odd. We are human. We all make mistakes, but let's learn from them when we have made them and make ourselves better people out of that. Ciao.